Thank you so much again for joining me on this channel. As always, I'm very grateful for all your previous views, likes, subscriptions and shares. And I need to start with an apology. You may have noticed that this video is over a day late for when it... Whoa! Things kind of ran away with me over the weekend. There was a trip to the opticians, to take the car to the garage, and then I had to put some furniture together. Basically, I ran out of time. Yeah, that's not really much of an excuse, is it? And that's an incredibly poor excuse. I'm also disappointed because yesterday was the 4th of July. I'm not angry, just disappointed. It would have been really cool to have done something on America and religion, but we'll have to wait until next year. However, I am really excited that Ooga Booga 9027 has left a comment suggesting, can you make a video about your favourite movie or movie franchise and why it is your favourite? That's a big question. Now, I will be honest with you, my favourite movie franchise, or the movie that I watched probably the most, is the Dark Knight trilogy by Christopher Nolan. I watch that at least once a year. And have already made a video on that, and there'll be a link to it at the end of this particular video. However, one movie I haven't spoken about is a movie called The Truman Show, and that is genuinely one of my favourite movies. And one of the reasons why I love it is because it has lots of different religious and philosophical ideas. It's also a movie that I use in class, and what I'm going to show you today is a very, very kind of rough version of what I do in class. So basically you're just rehashing material. Directed by Peter Weir, The Truman Show from 1998 had a huge impact. Least of all was its marketing. You got to remember, this was before we had YouTube. So the poster was very distinctive. It was made up of lots of individual stills of the main character of the movie The Truman Show, Truman Burbank. Truman Burbank is played by Jim Carrey, and he is a man who is the unwitting star of a television show. In other words, he lives on a huge, ginormous television set. Everyone around him are actors. Everything is fake. Everything is choreographed. He is completely unaware that he is the biggest star in the world. Truman's wife is Meryl Burbank, played by the wonderful actor Laura Linney. And she actually goes so far as to advertise products during the live broadcasts. The director and creator of the entire show is Christoph, played by Ed Harris, and is a bit of a clue with his name as to the kind of omnipotence and omniscience he has over Truman's life. Let's start connecting the Truman Show to some religious and philosophical ideas. Plato was a very famous Greek philosopher. He was trained by the legendary Socrates, and he came up with something called the cave allegory. The basic idea of the cave is this. Imagine a group of people who were born and raised in a cave. They can't see their captors, and they're not aware that they're in a cave. That's all they've ever known. And behind them is a flame, a light, a fire. And that fire projects shadowy images onto the wall that they can see. They're chained up, they can't move around. And those shadowy images might be the objects that their captors bring in, or even the captors themselves. And actually that's the point. That's all they've ever known. And to an extent, that's what Truman is like. All he's ever known is that entire fake world that he exists in, the world of the Truman Show, the town that is called Sea Haven. And yes, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, and it's picturesque, and of course that's the complete opposite to the cave. But those prisoners in the cave and Truman in Sea Haven are in exactly the same position. They don't know what is beyond the cave. Truman doesn't know what is beyond Sea Haven because he's been manipulated into a state of fear. They made sure that his father passed away at an early age in a boating accident, so therefore he's terrified of going anywhere near water and won't leave. But what's also really interesting is how this idea of, well, what is real? What is a reality? So for those prisoners in the cave, that is their reality. For Truman, what he sees is his reality. And of course, we can reflect that back onto us. Is what we see around us actually reality? Truman becomes suspicious of the world that he's in, and he tries to escape. But the thing is, everything's controlled. There's a traffic jam. The coach that he goes on breaks down. Of course, he's fearful of water. And when he tries to escape, there's actually a huge disaster that is staged in order to make him turn back. Truman, on one level, does have a sense of choice, but of course, he is contained like an animal in a cage. The Truman Show raises profound questions about the choices that we make as human beings and how that affects our lives. Broadly speaking, there are three ways of looking at how human beings carry out choices in the world. First of all, the idea of free will, that as human beings, we are entirely free to make whatever choices we want, whether that's regarding the clothes that we wear or the jobs that we do. We are fully autonomous. There's also the idea of determinism, that basically there is cause and effect, and we can look and see how actions that we do have consequences. And then there's the idea of predeterminism, that no matter what we do, everything is fixed. We simply have the illusion of choice, and that everything has a place, everything has a time, and we can never deviate from that course. Eschatological issues are those to do with the end times, what happens when we pass away. And near the climax of the movie, Truman does actually manage to escape and get to the edge of Sea Haven, or of course, literally the edge of the TV studio. Rather embarrassingly, I forgot to hit the record button on the camera. So instead you'd have to put up with this image of me and me talking. But there's a wonderful moment where Truman is there at the edge of his world, wondering whether he should escape and, as it were, go to the next life or the life he believes is out there. And Christoph talks to him. Truman can't see Christoph, but the imagery is clear. Here is a human being having a conversation with a deity, his creator, and the symbolism is quite astounding. It's also a very moving moment, and there we are as viewers rooting for Truman along with the rest of the world that are watching for him to get his freedom. The 20th century philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein said of the afterlife, the real question of life after death isn't whether or not it exists, but even if it does, what problem this really solves. And I guess the point of that is, well, if there is an afterlife, how much does it affect what we're doing now? But also, does it really solve any of those big problems and challenges that face us in day-to-day life? Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And it was a fantastic suggestion. Please do keep the comments coming for future ideas on the channel. And it was never, ever a chore to look back at one of my favourite movies. Anyway, please do like, share, subscribe and comment. And as always, enjoy your learning.